Welcome food fans, picky eaters, the flavor curious, and everyone in between. Nothing makes good food better than good conversation. And your table is ready. Come right this way to the Food for Thoughtcast with your host, Melissa Reagan. But you can call her Chef. All right, let's get this episode started.
As a chef and a person who loves all kinds of food, I'm always looking for ways that I can emphasize quality over quantity without feeling like I'm missing out or depriving myself of the things that I love. And I love pasta. Carbonara, mac and cheese, primavera, cacio e pepe, you name it and I'm all about it. That's why I choose Bonza. Bonza is the pasta made from chickpeas, which means it has more protein, more fiber, and I believe more flavor than regular old pasta. Seriously, if you go in my pantry right now, there are 2 boxes in there awaiting their next culinary adventure. Bonza has over 12 different kinds of pasta, including penne, rotini, elbows, and cavatappi, which is my favorite, because all of those curves and ridges hold even more delicious sauce. Bonza also makes pizza crust, which tastes too good to believe that it comes from peas. You can find Bonza at Whole Foods, Target, and Walmart. Welcome back to the Food for Thoughtcast with me, your host, Melissa Reagan. As always, you can call me Chef. Today, back in the house with us, I've got Steven Gonzalez. What's going on, Steve?
Hey, what's up?
Easter is upon us, so we're talking about Easter foods. Let's get into it. What's going on? How's your week been?
My week's been very busy with work, but it's been good and productive. So I am enjoying downtime.
Yeah, that good kind of busy where you at least got something done, but now you need sleep, right?
Something like that. Yeah, you're slowly catching up on MZs.
Right? You have to get them somehow, sometime. Well, as always, I want to know what was the most amazing thing that you ate or cooked this week?
You know what? With work being as busy as it was, I didn't have time to really cook. So yesterday, my wife and I went to a friend's house and he made us a brisket. And he's actually from Kansas City too. And the way that he smoked it, that flavor was just phenomenal. That flavor was on point.
Yes.
And it was tender. It was good. And let's see, I was kind of late celebrating St. Patty's Day. So we made some quesadillas with like corned beef and cooked cabbage and stuff. And it sounds crazy, but it's really good.
No, that sounds amazing. Like a little cross-cultural. Do you have a sauce to go with that?
Well, you're going to laugh at me, but Thousand Island dressing with that.
Come on, why not? It's like a Reuben quesadilla.
Yeah, you get the sweetness from the sauce, and then you get like your meat. And so it was funny because like I cooked down all my cabbage first to where they almost look like sauteed onions. Oh, it was awesome.
Oh, that sounds incredible. It sounds so good. I don't want that right now. Can you FedEx it to me?
Yes, we can.
Everything's possible in this day and age.
Right.
I believe someday there's going to be like some sort of virtual reality where you can taste other people's food. Maybe. I don't know.
I think we can, yeah.
Yeah, it's coming. I don't know. I, for one, am looking forward to bowing down before our robot overlords. Maybe they'll make virtual reality food and drink. Maybe they'll make it an actual reality. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's only a matter of time before we send food, over state lines or on the other side of the state, and it's not going to be moldy. It's only a matter of time.
It's going to be Star Trek style. Like, we imagine texting somebody a picture of a cheeseburger and then it pops up from a transponder somewhere. It's going to be amazing. Right? Instant gratification. All right. So what did you eat around Easter time growing up?
If we're going to talk about my childhood, we're going to have to open some beer for that one.
Do it.
To be honest, growing up, every holiday was just an excuse to grill and barbecue, get together with family. And it was just always a tradition, the usual. For us, it was fajitas and rice, beans. Yeah, that's what we did for everything. How about you?
Well, so us very vanilla folks around Easter, it's typically a ham, decorating and hiding eggs. There's always all the things that go along with ham, right? Maybe green beans, potato salad, or mashed potatoes. Maybe cranberry sauce, but not so much around Easter time. But I know other people's families certainly do that. I don't remember that from growing up, but yeah, totally. Ham.
Yeah, ham and cranberry just go hand in hand, you know?
Yeah,
I think,
absolutely. Like,
now that you mentioned it, we did have some glazed hams and stuff like that, but it wasn't so common. Like I said, for us, it was just grilling.
yeah. Was it fajitas every single time, or did you grill other things too?
I mean, it was like beef, chicken, pork, like whatever we can really get our hands on. But like that was just because it was easy. And for us, it was more about, it's not that it wasn't about the food. It was more about just being with family. And for us, grilling was just fast, easy, and it always came out good, you know?
I think that's the most important part of any meal, right? It's we're always talking about it. Food brings us together, and it's a beautiful thing. Food unites us. Now a chance for the lightning round. What's the difference between a fajita and a taco? Go.
Fajita is the meat. Fajita is like what you're cooking. The taco has like all the elements, your tortilla, your meat, or your filling. Yeah, that's the difference.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people get it wrong though.
Are you serious?
Yes, I've seen a lot of people call several things fajitas when they actually weren't, like portobellos. And then
fajita style.
Right. Exactly. And then a lot of people have made tacos out of a lot of things where it just didn't have any business being a taco.
In all fairness, just about anything can go in a tortilla.
You're right.
But you got to make sure that everything balances out together and that it makes sense. I mean, you can't just throw like chocolate in a tortilla. It doesn't work like that, you know?
I'm doing it. You can't stop me.
You're going to have to like deep fry your tortilla and throw like sugar and cinnamon and stuff.
Did your family hide Easter eggs when you were a kid?
We did. And I was very fortunate to where there was always that one plastic egg with like a $5 or a $20 bill in there. Yes. And my dad always told me exactly where it was. It was awesome. My brother would be so mad. Dad helped you. It's because Dad helped you. And I would just say, yeah, uh-huh. I didn't know how to respond to that. I was just like, yeah, I got money. You want some?
Like, what? Yeah, what do you do? I have money and you don't. Like, suck a...
Yeah. I'd probably just blow it on candy, I think.
What's your favorite Easter candy? Do you have one?
I'd say the robin eggs.
They're so good.
Robin eggs are the bomb. My wife loves robin eggs too.
I'm a big fan of the Reese's eggs. I will argue, like many people do, that they taste different from the regular Reese's peanut butter cup. I'm not quite sure what the difference is, but I like them better, actually.
You know what? I can see that. Like, I can totally see that because if you look at, like, for example, robin eggs, it's just Whoppers, but it's got like that candy shell on the outside.
Yeah.
Just that little bit makes it 10 times better.
I think it's the shell that makes the difference. I ate a box of Whoppers at a movie recently and was just kind of disappointed. And I don't know if it was because my memory of the Whopper was a certain way. And, maybe I had it in my head that it tasted a certain way, or maybe it was what I was drinking as well. But it was overwhelmingly malty, and the shell on the robin's eggs I think is like a lot different, and it's thinner and more crackly, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
it's delicate.
And it's funny when you mention the word malt. Every time I hear malty, I like people describe beers like craft beers and stuff like, oh, this is very malty. And so when I was first getting into all that, I would taste it and I'd say, this doesn't taste like Whoppers. I don't know what they're talking about. I always put those two together, which makes no sense, but you just hear the word malty, and that's just what I think of.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's kind of the easiest way for your brain to just kind of categorize that flavor because it's so bizarre. As a kid, I liked malts better than shakes growing up, and I went through a period of time in my early 20s where I would buy the malted powder and put it directly on ice cream.
Interesting.
I probably gained like 10 pounds doing that, but it's the same as you. I don't know that if anybody was using the description of a beer, even though I know that like malt is involved in beer making, I don't know that I would connect the two though. You know what I mean? Yeah, so I totally get that. I totally get it.
That's just the left-handed side of my brain working, it makes no sense at all, but to me it does, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're talking about some classic Easter foods. In most places in the U.S., you've got a baked ham of some kind. So I need to know, what is your go-to ham recipe, or do you have one?
I'm always a big fan of like just a traditional ham, but I always like doing like a rum and cola type of glaze for my hams. I don't know why. It's just like when you used to watch It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and they had that
Yeah.
one episode with the rum
Yeah.
ham. Yeah, so
Absolutely. Yeah.
just rum and cola go great together. Then you just put it on a ham. It's just fantastic.
Do you marinate that, or is it just do you glaze it while it's cooking, or is that just the condiment that you serve with it?
I used to glaze it as it was cooking, but then it got too thick. It
Yeah,
it
it's
was
all the
too
sugar.
yeah, exactly. It was too sticky for my liking. So I just made it just to where it won't, become, too thick. And that's when I just put it on more towards the end.
Yeah, I totally understand that. When I do a rum glaze for ham, I'll go the other direction from the rum and coke, and I like to do like a rum and golden raisin. And
Ooh,
so
that
I
sounds
just
good.
rehydrate the raisins, and they swell up really, really big, right? And all the sugar comes out, but it does get really sticky and really messy. And then
Yeah.
there's that classic presentation that like people like to do with a ham, which is pineapple rings and maraschino cherries. Have you ever been into that?
I can't say I've had it, but it's one of those things I've always wanted to do, and I just always forget about it. But I would rather throw those cherries and whatnot like into like an old fashioned or some sort of alcoholic beverage.
Yeah, me and you both, like a Manhattan or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah.
you know what I also do with my glazes is that at the very end, I'll take it off the heat and I'll just put like that little pat of butter in there and just let it melt on its own, just so that way it looks nice, creamy. Because you can't just like make a glaze; it has to have like that creamy kind of factor to it. I don't know
Yeah.
why. That's just comfort for me.
Well, I think that's what takes it from ice cream topping to savory sauce is the addition of that butter. You need it for the richness, and it cuts all that jelly goopy, like it kind of cuts through that sweetness, I think.
I'd throw that on ice cream too. I don't care.
Oh, I totally would eat it
Even
on ice
that
cream.
was more creamy fat.
We're not saying that I wouldn't. I just say like there's a bunch of weird things I'll put on ice cream, but I think the butter definitely elevates it to where you're like, oh, this goes with meat now.
And we'll fast forward about 15, 20 years now. But for me, when I think of Easter, I have to have lamb. I can't not cook lamb for Easter now. I love it.
Okay, so are you a
I
mint
can
jelly guy or not?
What's that?
Are you a mint jelly guy or not?
No. I mean, I'll do it if it's available, but it's not my go-to.
It's
Like,
so
I'd rather do like a
gross.
pesto or a chimichurri. No,
Yep.
you can make mint jelly good, but you have to make it from scratch. Like the stuff
Yeah.
that comes all jellied and in a
It
jar.
looks like green Jello, and it smells like an Altoid that's been sitting in the bottom of your car floorboard.
I'm sure
It's
there are ways that we can
terrible.
make it usable, but yeah, no, I always just enjoy like more of a savory, herby type of a sauce with my lamb.
Yeah.
So chimichurris are just the best.
Yeah, absolutely. So lamb, very traditional Easter food as well. With a lamb shank, I really enjoy doing a mint gremolata, kind of a play on
Yeah.
a chimichurri, just a drier application. I love a traditional chimichurri, and I think anything that's bright and green really works well with lamb because it kind of has that gamey flavor. So you have to balance it a little
Mhm.
bit.
I absolutely love lamb shanks. I love braising them. It's one of my favorite things to do. But like during Easter, during the spring, what I love doing now is I'll get a leg of lamb and I'll debone it, and then I'll cut it into steaks and grill it that way. And that's just as good to me.
That sounds
Like
awesome.
a roast is always a good way to go, but I've kind of carried that tradition of just grilling on Easter. And so for me, lamb steaks out of a leg of lamb is just the way to go.
It's always awesome to see how traditions that you've carried since you've grown up influence the person you are now. I'm just deeply interested in that and especially about why people cook the way that they do. I think we pick up both strange and helpful habits from our family or whoever influences our cooking journey about why we do things the way we do, or like how we use and approach certain ingredients.
So then,
100%.
okay, so whenever it comes to lamb, the other thing I also like doing is I'll get the lamb racks and I'll kind of like open it up and not butterfly, that's not the right word, but like I'll just, slice it to where you can stuff it, and then roll it back up, and then I'll tie it shut and then cook it that way. So
On
like
the bone,
stuffed
though,
rack of
right?
lamb. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you're definitely butterflying it. It's just still on the bone, but I totally get it. It's kind of like when you open a shrimp further when you're deveining it and you go to stuff it, or like you wrap it in bacon. It's the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what do you use for stuffing?
A lot of the times I'll use like spinach, but I love stuffing it with like goat cheese and spinach. And then if I can get like some sort of pomegranate glaze to go over the top.
Yeah. Maybe like a pomegranate molasses.
Yeah. That's
good.
It's one of my favorite things. Lamb, you get that gaminess from the lamb, you get the brightness from the goat cheese, and then of course that sweetness, that tart from the pomegranate glaze. Hell yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you need all those tangy components with. I know that lamb's not considered game because it's so domesticated, but it has that same gamey flavor, right?
Oh, yeah.
That you get with like something like venison, where I would love to put like lingonberries with it or something else to balance out the flavors.
Yeah. Venison's the one thing that I love cooking, but I'm always just a little reluctant to because I'm always afraid of drying it out because it's so lean, you know?
Right.
But when it's done right, oh, man.
Yeah, you just have to use those. What is it? What did you say?
That for Easter as well, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you totally could. I take mine the other direction. So we're right on the heels of, or we just passed St. Patrick's Day. Mm-hmm. And anytime I can find a good quality lamb stew meat in the store, I always make like a lamb pie or like a lamb and kidney pie or like a Guinness lamb stew. So
that sounds really good.
We're just having this crazy cold snap. It just makes me want things like casseroles and soups and stews.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. We were supposed to get snow today and tomorrow, and it's been like in the 50s all day, and it's been sunny.
That's ridiculous.
And, I'm trying to kick myself because it's like, man, I should have like been more productive. But, you know, it's always good to just relax, hang out, watch movies. Of course, I fall asleep through those movies most of the time. My wife's just watching them and enjoying them. But it's just, for me, it's a great time.
Yeah, they're just background noise. Sometimes you need that. Sometimes it makes like for the best nap.
Right. Now, I don't know. You might disagree with me on this one for Easter, though. But like, I think crab cakes and salmon cakes, like some sort of. I always think of like seafood as well. You know, what's your take on that?
So, yeah, absolutely. Not growing up, we didn't really have any seafood around on Easter, but working in banquets and at clubs and in restaurants, and a lot of the times having to work on Easter Sunday, absolutely always had a shrimp cocktail display of some kind, crab claws and legs, or some sort of croquette, and really the classic spring flavors. Like, I know you're not a huge dill guy, but there's always some smoked salmon or gravlax or like a poached salmon with like a dill cream.
Yeah. I'm always a big fan of like the cold smoked salmon, or even just like a regular smoked salmon, like on a cedar plank. Although I found out I'm allergic to cedar over the years, but I still appreciate that, you know?
Right.
So, but yeah, with dill, it is growing on me quite a bit, but I can still take it in small doses.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way about most things that are anise based. It took me a long time to warm up to fennel, but still, if it's fennel seeds, I'm more reluctant to eat that than I would say like a caramelized fennel or fennel in a salad or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think salmon for springtime, for a holiday like Easter.
Oh yeah.
That's magical. And some of those spring flavors in there, like you've got dill or maybe some of the flowering herbs like chervil, basil, and things like that. And then lightening it up a little bit with maybe some citrus, some acid.
Oh, yeah.
Could be a great addition to an Easter table.
And of course, with this time of year, you know, we're getting towards the end of citrus season. So that's when, you know, you get that last little bit where it's like really, really good.
Yeah.
But citrus and seafood and those fresh herbs and all that. Yeah. It's just classic for me at this point.
Yeah, indeed. Did you ever, have you ever eaten ham with the traditional Thanksgiving trimmings, or like if you're going to have ham, do you have it as a whole ham, or like how does ham look when you have it at your house? Is it lunch meat or?
No. We'll get that and whatnot. To me, because it's just better that way. Like, don't get me wrong. The deli meat hams are good, but I prefer, just getting an actual ham. If you're gonna do it, just go all out.
Right. I think lunch meat is it's so much water and salt. It's just a
Yeah.
very sad representation of whatever it was supposed to be or whatever it used to be.
Right. What I do also like doing, so a lot of the times what we'll do is we'll get like the hams and we'll cube it up, and then we'll put it like in a killer pasta salad or something along those lines,
Yeah.
with like the mayo, the creamy mayo based, and then you can add like your peas and your herbs and stuff like that. Yeah, that's always a good Easter one as well.
Yeah, I think all the foods that are representative of spring and then the oncoming like summer solstice are classic for Easter. Peas and eggs and fresh greens and all the citrus. Apparently, so I was just reading an article today about historical Easter foods and Easter foods around the world, but with Easter being the culmination of Lent and a lot of people eating more fish than meat during Lent, apparently fish cakes are a very traditional Good Friday and Easter food in Germany, of all places. Who knew?
Yeah. It's awful because even though I'm Catholic and I celebrate Lent and Easter and all that stuff, I've been eating meat every Friday this year. It's like, okay, I'm not going to eat meat today. I'm not. I think
it'll be okay, Steve.
Yeah, and then you get we ordered pepperoni pizza for lunch. All right, let's do it. So that's just what's been happening.
Yeah, I mean, hey, things like that happen. Traditional Easter foods, Easter springtime foods include carrots, asparagus, and eggs, of course. Do you have any favorites there?
I kind of like them all. Like I'm not very. I don't exclude very much.
Sure.
And I don't know why, but like whenever I think of Easter as well, I always think of like beets and radishes and artichokes. Rhubarb is starting to come into season. I dig it all.
Yeah. What's your favorite thing to do with rhubarb?
Usually I like to go the sweeter route, and I'll do like a rhubarb jam or something along those lines. That's what I've really stuck with. I haven't really had much experience like trying to find other ways to do it, but that's what works for me.
Well, I love a strawberry rhubarb pie. I think it's severely underappreciated.
Oh yeah.
For the home cooking, it can be a little bit daunting if you find it fresh because you've got to cut those tops off in order for it to be not toxic. And
I was going to say, aren't the leaves like bad for you?
Yes, they're poisonous. So, but a lot of the times I'll find it at like Central Market or Whole Foods in the frozen section, and it's great to make pie. Like it's already cleaned up and sliced. Rhubarb makes a fantastic. It kind of has it has a tart flavor already. It needs a lot of sugar, but that tart flavor lends itself really well to a gastrique. And so a few times I've been able to make like a gastrique. For the listener, if you don't know what a gastrique is, it is a sugary vinegar reduction. So you're balancing the sweet and sour. Or sometimes, so that's the French word, and in Italian it's called agrodolce, which means sour and sweet, basically aggressive and sweet. Agrodolce, but rhubarb lends itself really nicely, I think, to beef. So I think it's one of the things that pairs really well with, because it's so tart. Like if you hit it with some honey, some savory components, and vinegar, and you cook it down to a nice syrup, I think you could easily brush it over a steak, and it's really, really good.
And I think it would go killer over like some brie too, like on a warm brie.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Some sort of creamy cheese, maybe
add some more the acidic and the sweetness. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, then once you do that, right, you have to hit all the quadrants. So it'd be like brie, and then that gastrique, and then maybe some toasted pistachios or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Making me really, really hungry right now.
Yeah, I've been eating so much the last few days. I'm not hungry, but talking about this makes me just want to eat, just to eat,
Yeah, absolutely.
Now question, what's your favorite Easter cocktail?
Man, so Easter cocktail, I always think of, something classic for springtime. So my mind is always going to go to like an Aperol spritz, but I want something herbal. I want an herbal component. So that would be like a rosemary and lavender simple syrup to kind of
Okay.
balance the bitterness of the Aperol. What about you?
For me, since we're talking about like the bright citrus flavor stuff like that, a good whiskey sour is always a good one for me. But I know traditionally, like it's more like the lighter alcohols, like gin, stuff like that. So
Sure.
so when you mentioned that, it made me automatically think of like gin.
Yeah, because juniper berry is like a classic. That's a classic, more of a springtime feel for a spice, you know?
Yeah. A good friend of mine turned me on to gin, like because so he made an excellent, like it was a blackberry mint gin cocktail,
Mhm.
and the way that he just like blended everything together, it was just amazing. You know?
It sounds incredible. It sounds
Yeah.
amazing. Springtime is historically it's a time to celebrate new birth and new growth, and it's when you're getting like baby herbs and berries are starting to have flavor again, and all you're getting all the in the South what we would call harbingers of a good harvest. So the tomatoes are starting to have flavor again, and
Yeah.
you have all those springtime vegetables, and the baby vegetables are just about ready. And yeah, I think from a culinary point of view, it's a really exciting time. It just coming out of winter, it just seems like a really
Yeah.
vibrant and exciting time.
Yeah, exactly. You're going from a lot of braised stuff to bright, fresh, out of the garden. Even though root vegetables are more for like the winter, like potatoes,
Sure.
stuff like that. Like you're getting a different type of root veg. You're getting like the radishes, you're getting the beets, things like that. And I'm a big fan of those flavors altogether. And they're bright, they're healthy, and it's just a different type of cooking with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally different. And I think that root veg has been somehow subjugated to smashes and braises and everything else, but we need to start putting it in more salads and lighter applications. I think it gets a bad rap, but there's nothing I love better than a really nice, like those tiny little French baby breakfast radishes. Once you
Uh,
roast them and then chill them and put them in like a really simple vinaigrette, they make an amazing salad.
yeah, I'll have to try that now.
Yeah.
So speaking of like root veg, we're talking about potatoes. What is your favorite way to prepare a potato or to make potatoes?
That's a multi-part question. It's
I feel like
going to
it's so
depend.
personal.
Right. Right. It's like, whoa, you asked about a man's potatoes. You got some gall, buddy. Um, so, it really depends on the application, but if we're keeping it very simple, say I'm at home and I'm making it for myself, it's going to be red potatoes, boiled, and then clarified butter and lots of fresh herbs and flaky sea salt and maybe a little white pepper. It's a very,
Nice.
very simple smash. I don't care if it has, I want the skin in it for the flavor and the
Yeah.
nutrients, and I don't care if it has lumps in it because it's just a really rustic smash. So how about you?
So there's a couple ways to do them. Like if I do a smashed potato, I always like to go back and fry it like in bacon fat or something along those lines to get that crisp out of it. But I'm still a big fan of like the potatoes au gratin. Remember the Anna potatoes from
Yeah.
culinary school?
Yep.
I still like doing that too. I
So like
think
a
it's
layered potato dish.
yes. Both of them are layered and they're cooked differently, but I think they're both great, especially for Easter, like because with like potatoes au gratin, you can add lots of different flavor components to
Yeah.
it. And it's almost like a casserole is not the best way to describe it, but it's almost like a big old awesome potato casserole, And then with the Anna potatoes, yeah, it's just like a little pinwheel of not pinwheel, it's just like a crispy,
Yeah.
delicious potato,
Yeah, Palmzana is an amazing way to use potatoes. I'll feature a recipe for that for the listeners on the website at www.foodforthoughtcast.com. And when we're talking about like layered potato dishes, scallop potatoes with that leftover ham from Easter is an amazing thing to do. Yeah, after the weekend's over and you have all that ham left, and a person can only eat so much ham and bean soup. The weather's going to get warmer. It's like, what am I going to do with all these leftovers now? Well, there's scalloped potatoes and ham. What else do we have? Like maybe a hash with eggs or a ham and cheese quesadilla. Like, what do you think?
Oh yeah, you can put ham in just about anything. Your pasta salads, the
You can.
quesadilla, your omelets, just to name a few things. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. But
Quiche. It's a
I,
really good
I
thing to
always
dump in
forget.
quiche.
Yeah, I always forget about like a ham and bean soup. I'm sure we could make like some killer ham and bean soups, but I always forget about that.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah.
have to do that
I'll,
now
I'll
in the
go.
summer. I'm gonna wait till it's like 100 degrees though. It's
Right.
got to be 100 degrees outside before I can make a soup, and then I'll drink hot tea with that as well.
Right. You have to sweat out everything that ails you during the summer. You've got to sweat it out.
Yeah. Now, do you ever do like the squash tarts and stuff like that?
Yes. So you're talking about like the same layered application that we'd use for a potato, but you're using like kind of like a
Well, I mean,
ratatouille style, but with like no tomato base. Is that what's that what you mean?
well, I'm thinking more like the puff pastry with like the squash and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know. Do you ever
absolutely.
do something like
Yeah, absolutely. So I love that for asparagus, like for a brunch. I think that's
that? Yeah.
amazing. I'll do like asparagus and goat cheese. I'm typically going to use zucchini instead of yellow squash because it gives off less water. And man, sometimes when squash gets super watery, it just kind of turns me off. You have to
It does.
remember
Yeah.
you slice it, salt it, and press it first. But sometimes, admittedly, when I'm cooking for myself at home, I will break all of the culinary rules out of sheer laziness.
Yeah. I do the same thing. If I'm just cooking for myself, yeah, I'll cut a few corners because I'm like, well, I can critique myself, but I know that I'm just being lazy.
I know what the consequences of my actions will be, so I'm going to go ahead and not heed any basic culinary advice because I'm the only one eating it, right?
No one's around to judge me.
No one's around to judge me. Nobody's going to say anything.
Right.
So, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Carrots. I love a classic candied carrot. How about you? What are you doing with carrots?
Well, so if I do carrots, like the carrot sticks are always a good way to go, but I have to have like the heirloom carrots, I'll spend a little bit more on them, but I don't know why they're just so much better. And then you roast them and you almost get like that char out of them. And it's funny that you say that because like the candied carrots, because I always do like a maple glazed carrot or like a red wine and maple glazed carrot, something along those lines. And it's just really good that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I love using the multicolored carrots as well. I do think the white and purple ones have a completely different flavor. I mean, it still tastes like a carrot, but it's just completely unique. I love to roast those multicolored, like the heirloom carrots with the tops on with harissa because it just does something like the sweetness of the carrots and the spiciness of the harissa. For anybody who doesn't know, it's a North African spice blend. It's used in North African cuisine as well as Moroccan. It's a red paste you can buy at most grocery stores. But yes, I will combine that with heirloom carrots, and then I'll throw garbanzo beans in there and cook the whole thing on a sheet pan until it's all crispy and caramelized. And it's really tasty. Yeah, it's very tasty. But because I'm Southern, I'll turn around and put it over grits, which makes no sense. But here we are.
No, it makes sense.
It makes sense. It's kind of like polenta, but less classy. I don't know.
But more flavor. I don't know what you call it, but it's good.
Yeah, it's got more flavor.
That it's good.
It does have more flavor. Look, now we're going to start a war between people who eat grits and people who eat polenta. But
you're going to alienate your listeners here. Whoa,
yeah,
those
all three of my listeners are going to be very offended. Hey, everything has its right place where it should be. All right, so what I'm seeing here is that traditionally, sometimes in Mexico, chile relleno is a dish that's eaten on Easter Sunday. What do you think about that? Ever heard of it? No, what I meant was, have you ever heard of it being eaten on Easter?
I've never done it. I would imagine it's really common because, I mean, chili rellenos are good year-round. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter if it's hot outside. It doesn't matter if it's cold outside. Chili rellenos are almost like tacos. They're good all the time.
They really are. Do you have a preference between their traditional egg batter and like a lot of places in Texas do chicken fried? Do you think that's sacrilege or do you think it's okay sometimes?
I think it's totally fine because the traditional way is always a good way to go. If you're gonna chicken fry it, I mean there's really nothing wrong with that either. As long as at the end of the day you have a really good filling that's gonna make you forget about you breaking all the rules. But then again, cooking now is breaking all the rules and finding what works for you, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you have to make things personal and approachable and accessible. And sometimes your food's not going to look like somebody else's. And sometimes your holiday is going to look completely different from somebody else's. And that's kind of the joy of getting to know one another. And then you cross those boundaries and you make amazing memories, whether it looks different or not,
In all fairness, I always char my poblanos and then I'll stuff them and I'll just throw them in the oven, without a batter on it.
Do you peel them?
Love it. Yeah, I'll peel them.
Okay.
I'll leave some of that skin on because I like getting that char flavor on there. But I think that it's a little bit simpler or more simple. I can't say healthier, but I mean, it's good, That's just how I've always done it at home,
Okay. And what are you stuffing them with?
It all depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Sometimes I'll stuff it with like seafood and cheese. A lot of the times I use cheese. I will sometimes stuff it with like ground beef, ground chicken, ground turkey. Again, it all just depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
Okay. Or maybe what you have in the house.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, that has a big part of it.
I mean, we have to know how to shop our own pantries, refrigerators, and freezers, right? Especially in this day and age. I just bought groceries today. I bought $80 worth of groceries and it was 5 bags of groceries. I mean, a lot has changed and the price of everything's going up. So
yeah. I try to use up everything that I have in my pantry, but like I do have seasonings that are really old and it's just what it is. I'll get around to using them eventually,
Yeah, I bought some black salt, and for those of you who don't know, that it's a salt from India that mimics the taste of eggs. And I was using it for vegan egg salad. So you use tofu as the base, and it lends like a really uncanny egg flavor to this mixture. It's amazing. Unfortunately, you can't buy it in less than a pound. Like, what am I ever going to do with a pound of this salt? It's crazy. And every time I open the pantry, I'm like, yeah, someday, buddy. Someday.
I've got some of those too. Don't worry. Truffle salt. Yeah.
Oh, you can't. It's just truffle is so strong. A little dab will do you. You just.
Yeah, exactly. Now, what's your favorite Easter dessert? Well, I know we talked about it briefly.
All right. So, yeah, we talked about Easter candy. As far as Easter dessert, it's going to have to be pie. I grew up with the kind of Southern traditional pies around Easter time would be the more springtimey flavor. So you got your coconut cream or coconut meringue and buttermilk pie. How about you?
Oh, that's easy. Whiskey sour. Like you really have to ask? That's the best dessert.
In a so as a dessert, the cocktail is your dessert.
Yeah.
I guess it's a good way to. I guess it's a good way to cut carbs, but like. Also, we had carrot cake quite a bit. My grandmother's carrot cake, and it is basically carrots, oil, and butter, and cream cheese and pecans. There's no other crazy shenanigans going on in there.
Okay, carrot cake with or without raisins?
No raisins. No.
Why?
I don't know. She never put them in there, so I just think they don't go in there.
I've seen it with like carrots, raisins. I've seen pineapple in carrot cakes. Like I've seen quite a few different things.
Same.
I can't say I would do all that, but I still wonder who thought it was going to be a good idea to throw carrots in a cake. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not quite sure the origins. That could be a whole other episode, right? But where does zucchini bread come from and carrot? I assume it had something to do with waste. Truly, like it's probably like a frugality thing where like where can we use these things and also make our kids want to eat it? I know, don't sugar on it. But she never put raisins in it, and to me, raisins exist to ruin other things. I like raisins by themselves. I adore dark chocolate raisinets. It's a sickness. I cannot watch a movie without them. But raisins ruin things too. Sticky buns have no business having raisins in them. I don't think bread pudding needs them either, but that's fine.
I could do raisins in applications like that. I can't do them by themselves.
Really? Is it the texture?
No, I mean, look, raisins are fine by themselves. Don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-raisin. I just don't eat them all the time,
Yeah.
I don't know. I like using them like in sauces, like in mole negro and stuff like that.
Oh, sure.
But I mean, otherwise, yeah, I don't really find myself, craving raisins for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, I think they have their place, but also I hate when they show up unexpected and it's just like, why are you here? Why? Nobody invited you.
It's always a welcome surprise for me. Oh, there's raisins in here. Interesting. Let's see what this tastes like.
That's how I feel
Now, if you
about.
put it
Go ahead.
Huh?
Go
Oh, I
ahead.
was gonna say, now, if you put it with like a beef tenderloin roast or something along those lines, then I'm gonna be like, you're losing me just a little bit.
Okay, well that begs the question: have you ever had beef bourgeois?
No, I can't say I have.
Okay, so it's like a braised pinwheel roast. It's an Italian application, and a lot of times there's raisins in there. I think you would love it.
For as much as me not being a fan of raisins, my guilty pleasure is port wine, and
Yes.
that's one of those where I can drink like a few ounces and I'm good. Hands down, a guilty pleasure for me.
The fortified wines definitely have more alcohol than everything else.
Oh yeah.
And I think as far as the beef bourgeois is concerned, it probably depends on where you grew up or which Italian grandmother you had. But yeah, typically it's there's a little prosciutto inside some pounded beef. It's pinwheel. They get braised in tomato sauce, sometimes olives, sometimes raisins, sometimes both. It's very interesting, but it balances out the richness of the beef.
Okay.
Now, for Easter items, did you ever eat capirotada as a kid around Lent or Easter, the Mexican bread pudding?
My mom would make it from time to time. I remember a handful of times that she would make it, and it was good. I remember liking it. I don't remember if she had made it, because I've had it to where it's like real soupy, and then I've had it to where it's kind of dry.
Right.
I don't remember the texture that she would use, but yeah, when she would make it, I do remember liking it,
Yeah. I mean, I love that stuff. I usually can't get enough. For those that don't know, capirotada is a Mexican style bread pudding, sometimes raisins, sometimes not, and really heavy cinnamon component. And I've also had it to where it either had a lot of dairy or didn't have a lot of dairy. And for instance, a couple of the kitchens I've worked in would make it around Dia de los Muertos, or the Day of the Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And they would make it with the cinnamon syrup that would come from candying pecans. So they would reserve that, add raisins, maybe a couple egg yolks and a bunch of bread scraps, and it was just insane. I love that stuff.
Oh yeah. You know what actually makes a really good like bread pudding, now that you're talking, like you're on that topic, is like the onion rolls, because they cook those onions down to where it's almost sweet. So that makes an excellent bread pudding.
And bread pudding is really big around Easter too. It wasn't in my family, but apparently in other parts of the country it is. And I really like a savory bread pudding. Do you ever mess with those?
I haven't made a savory bread pudding in a long, long time, but I do appreciate those as well.
It's really, really good with a roast. It would be very good with ham. So, for example, one that's kind of in my toolbox and has been for a long time is a smoked Gouda and herb bread pudding.
You know what would be really awesome is if you were to make a savory bread pudding, you made it real firm, and then you get it really cold, and then cut it in half, almost like a sandwich. You get a little crust on it, and then use that as a sandwich. God, that would be so good, don't you think?
Yes. So ham. So ham and some really spicy Dijon and savory bread pudding bread slices. Yeah. I want to do this right now.
Even if you were to make bread pudding and then, do like a French toast style with that, it's a lot of extra steps, but it's totally worth it. I know some places do that, and I've done that a handful of times, and my God, it's so good.
It's like Monte Cristo Inception. It's like putting all the custard on the inside, and that's crazy. You're blowing my mind right now. Now I want to make this for Easter.
We're gonna be making all this kind of stuff, and it's just, there's going to be a smorgasbord of different Easter ideas,
I'm going to need a nap after all of this.
So what about do you have any kind of soul food kind of preferences when it comes to like Easter, like the stewed okra and fresh tomatoes and all that kind of stuff? Or like I even saw like even like braised turkey wings, like that's killer on Easter as well.
Oh,
But soul food is good on its own, you know?
yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's amazing. My family, Dallas is a little bit cosmopolitan, and depending on who asks, is like not super southern, and so you know, um, we had collard greens and biscuits and things like that. But Easter was very much like yeasted rolls, candied carrots, mashed potatoes, sometimes turnips, honey glazed ham, but no really legit soul food. But I love that stuff. I cannot get enough of that stuff.
Same, yeah. Okay, so what about how traditional is stuff like deviled eggs for you?
Yeah, every single family gathering typically has deviled eggs if it's around the holidays, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. Yeah. What, you have any favorite things you like to do to jazz up a deviled egg, or do you like it traditional?
You know what? I like them traditional, but I also like to do like the lox and stuff with my deviled eggs.
Yes.
That is just out of this world.
There was this time when I lived in Austin where every restaurant, it seemed, had some sort of deviled egg sampler on the menu, and it was everything all kind of crazy, right? Like there was kimchi and there was wasabi and sriracha and candied bacon and regular bacon, and it was very, everything under the sun kind of has its time, and every food goes through its little renaissance, right? And so there was cake balls, and then there was deviled eggs, and then there were flavored savory cocktails. And yeah, to be living in Austin through all of that.
I thought you were going to say there's cake ball devil eggs and stuff like that. And
yeah. A cake ball deviled egg cocktail.
Weird is the thing, but that's a little too weird.
No, sorry, there were commas in between all those words. So yeah, so deviled eggs was a very much like a fad thing, I feel. It was trendy, in Austin and in Dallas for quite a while. But yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I always appreciate a good deviled egg. To be honest, I never had a deviled egg until I was probably like 31.
Oh, you poor thing.
Yeah,
man.
We just never ate them. Like I knew that they existed, but I had no clue what they were, like or how to make them, And I just never had an interest in them. And then once I finally had them, I felt like I see the light.
Yeah, they're so good. It's like, where have I been? Yeah. And then you can take it a step further. You can do the armadillo eggs, where you do the deviled egg and you put both halves back together, roll them in sausage or wrap that in bacon, stuff it, deep fry it or smoke it.
I just see all sorts of gastrointestinal tract issues with that one. It sounds good, but I'm sorry, I just can't do that to my family.
Well, somebody else out there is already doing it for you. There's a couple restaurants around here that are doing like their variation on a Scotch egg, but it's the Texas flair. So there's one place around here that does a full-blown Scotch egg where it's sausage and it goes through a 3-step breading. In the middle, there is a deviled egg, but it's stuffed. The actual deviled part, the filling, has jalapeno pimento cheese in it. It's insane. It's insane.
They all sound great, but I feel like I would just be in all sorts of pain later,
Past the Pepto,
Yeah.
There comes a time. I mean, I'll try all that stuff once, but you got to be nice to yourself too.
Small doses, yes.
Small doses. It's good for to me, I feel like it's good at the fair once a year. But I'm not going to eat like that all the time.
Yeah, I remember the first time I ever heard of like Scotch eggs. I thought, why would someone have Scotch and eggs together? That doesn't make any sense.
It sounds terrible.
Well, it's either one or the other. I'll drink the Scotch, but I won't have eggs with it. But I'll have the eggs, without Scotch. I don't know. But then I found out what a Scotch egg was, and I thought that sounds pretty good. Sounds like a lot of extra work, but it's cool. Yeah, I'll just drink the Scotch. Yeah.
So Easter, of course, Christian holiday. You can trace all the kind of pagan rites and rituals back, right? The eggs symbolize rebirth. Ham is good luck. The lamb, of course, is a sacrifice. It's a symbolism for Christ. And then there's cakes and breads too. There's carrot cake and hot cross buns, for example. Have you ever made those?
I've never made hot cross buns, but I definitely appreciate them. It's almost like the Easter bread with like the eggs like that are in there.
Yes.
It's not quite the same though, you know?
No, I think that's Greek. But the hot cross buns, like very decidedly British, and I've made them twice. It's like a 2-step yeast dough. I used Jamie Oliver's recipe, and to be honest, being a Texan that grew up with kolaches and everything else, I was very disappointed that it wasn't sweeter than it was.
I have a feeling that if I made that, my wife would appreciate it because her grandma is from England. I want to say from London. And
excellent.
So anytime we try to do like English food, she's always very appreciative,
Yeah, but you got to get on that.
I can count them all on one hand the times I've done English food,
Well, Jamie Oliver's recipe is a really good start for that. And then you can draw the little crosses on top, hence the name hot cross buns. But yeah, it's probably a 2-day process. It's not as difficult as well, I won't say difficult. It's not as involved as keeping a sourdough starter alive, but it's a commitment. It's a couple of stages, kind of like a really good focaccia. What are you cooking this week, Steve?
That's a good question. I'm gonna have to throw a bunch of darts at the wall and just have like words taped up to the wall. Just start throwing darts and whatever lands is what I'm gonna make. Although, you know what, though? I am planning on going to Kansas City on Tuesday, and I will be enjoying some barbecue. I think we're going to do an overnight trip to St. Louis, so I'll go check all that out as well. So I'm kind of excited. It's going to be like a food journey, We're just going to do all sorts of food debauchery where we're just going to eat ourselves sick, eat some more, and then just continue to eat until we just can't eat anymore,
That sounds amazing, and that's what travel is for. Forget what you're going to get to see, like what are you going to get to eat?
No. It's not like, we're going to go here and we're going to check out this landmark now. What's the best restaurant?
I want the best thing. So you're going to get a couple of different styles of barbecue for sure.
Yes.
Anything else on the menu? Food puns. I made it.
We're just going to go wherever the wind takes us. I actually have a friend of mine who's a bartender out in St. Louis, and so we're going to go hang out with him. He's quite creative when it comes to cocktails, so I'm very excited for that. And of course, he'll recommend his restaurant that he works at, which I'm excited to try.
Sure.
It's called Fraser's, and then wherever else he says to go, like that's what we're going to do. I'm going to put on at least 15 to 20 pounds. Just in, this week alone.
Man, that's the dream. Make sure you get some gooey butter cake, okay?
Gooey butter cake, yeah. That sounds good.
Yeah. Shout out to good friends. My local spot. I had their carne asada nachos tonight. Took half of it home. I'm going to make migas with it tomorrow morning. And then for this week, I'm doing, I made bolognese sauce last week. So I'm having bolognese with bonza pasta, garbanzo-based pasta for a little bit more fiber and protein. And then I'm making a quiche for the week. And then I've got what I like to call hand fruit to snack on, like apples and oranges and whatnot. So very, very simple. And all of that prep tomorrow will take me about an hour. And that's it.
Yeah, now I need to start figuring out what I'm going to make for my next YouTube video, but I'm just looking forward to going to Kansas City, so I better start thinking and quick.
That's going to be amazing. I know you have a wonderful time. We'll have to have you back on. We can compare all the types of barbecue, right? We can talk about the differences between Texas and St. Louis and Kansas and all the things. That'll be an amazing time.
Start planning your homework.
Yeah, start planning your homework and also eat a lot.
That sounds like a challenge, and I'm up for it.
All right, so we heard what you've done for Easter's past, kind of your take on traditional Easter items, but what are your plans for food for this Easter?
We're going to probably do some lamb. If I can get my hands on some king crab, probably that as well. We go all out whenever I have friends over, and we just have a good old time. I don't know yet. I still have some time to really think about that one, but definitely lamb. Lamb. Can you tell I like lamb?
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
So is this going to be the lamb chop preparation that you talked about, or the lamb rack preparation, or like what kind of lamb are you going to grab?
You know what? It depends if what I can get my hands on. If I can get, actually, you know what? I'm lying to you. So what I'm gonna
Liar.
do, right? Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get the cabrito, the baby goat, and a
Yes.
friend of mine has like that spit. So what we're gonna, so I need to get him on board for it. So I'll buy the baby goat and we'll just fire roast that thing. That's what we're gonna do.
So you're going to have slow roasted caprito or baby goat over a spit.
Yes, and then we'll just make a bunch of sides.
Oh, that
Yeah,
sounds phenomenal. That sounds phenomenal.
yeah. I think
The
that's
only
what we can do.
the only way that I can really get goat close to me is kind of in a chunks, for lack of a better term. It's just like a stew meat or like leg, I guess, and it's always kind of cut up and sometimes frozen. There's a couple of spots around here, and I'm a really big fan of curry with goat.
Oh yeah, lamb and curry. It's good together.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to do that. I like to do that for goat, and I like to do it with lamb too, or like kind of a traditional vindaloo style, but I always have to make it a little bit more mild as I am a little bit vanilla.
Well, I challenge you that if you do that, see if you can find a leg of lamb. You got Central Markets up there in Dallas.
Yeah, absolutely.
So get a leg of lamb and then just cut it into steaks. Marinate that with like a good pesto or something along those lines,
Yeah.
and then just grill it. I guarantee you will not be disappointed.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. So you guys are going to do the baby goat. Are you grilling any of those sides, or like what are you going to fix to go with that?
Ooh, I don't know yet.
I put you on the spot.
Yeah, right. Totally. Totally. No, what we'll probably end up doing is maybe like some again, going back to like what I like now is like the potatoes au gratin, the good asparagus, maybe some roasted beets, or even like a roasted beet salad with some goat cheese or something along those lines, keep it fresh,
Yeah.
We're going to keep it fresh, even though we're going to roast and cook the heck out of those vegetables.
Yeah. Yeah. And my favorite way, in school or in restaurants, hotels and everything else, it's very much like we blanch, we take the ends off the asparagus, we blanch it, and then it's ready for us to use. I kind of hate doing that. I feel like you're setting yourself up to overcook it. My favorite way to do asparagus is just to trim those edges. You break the asparagus at its natural breaking point. It kind of gives you the guide for the rest of the bunch, right?
Yep.
And then I'm laying that straight on parchment paper, and I'm hitting it with as much lemon zest as is humanly possible, salt, cracked pepper, and garlic. And then I'm finishing it with Parmesan, like under the broiler. But it still has that nice mouthfeel. I just feel like if you blanch it, it's like, hey, you're 2 steps from it being mushy. And, as a kid, like we ate canned asparagus and it was just terrible. It almost ruined my relationship with asparagus. So,
yeah, I would probably just broil it personally. Any kind of charred vegetable period to me is fantastic.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah. My wife says that I'm killing my vegetables, but hey, I'm eating vegetables. That's all that matters.
You got to get them in there one way or the other. And for a lot of people that don't like vegetables, it comes down to the texture.
Yeah. And it's cool. What I think is really cool. So my wife is a big salad person. So what I like to do is combine my love for charred vegetables with her love for salad. And then we do like a charred vegetable salad. And she does a really great job of like roasting beets. She throws a lot of salt, a lot of pepper, a lot of olive oil to where, man, they're just flavored so well. Yeah. So we just combine it all. And
nature's candy, right?
Yeah. And then you get everything like you let it sit out at room temp for a little bit. And because I like when I do my salads like that, I like it to be not ice cold. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes a ton of sense. That's how the French do as well. And the Italians, you have a whole courses that are completely room temperature. And I think the food tastes better because cold stuns your taste buds and the flavors meld like easier.
Yeah. It's always funny though, because we're eating it and it's like, man, why don't we cook like this more often? And then she says, and then she reminds me of that because I really like to, we both work a lot of hours and I just get lazy. So, it's just one of those things where I need to continue to be on it. We always go in with the best intention, and sometimes it's just easier to get like a burger or something,
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
I always appreciate a good salad as well with like those charred vegetables. And then even do you ever put like a poached egg on your salad or no?
I am very much in a phase of my life where I'm adding egg to everything.
Same here.
Every single thing has to have an egg on top of it. I had an Impossible Burger patty tonight with an egg on top, which might sound like an oxymoron, but whatever. And I added egg to a bowl of chili the other day, and I added egg to, I can't even remember what else, but it doesn't matter. I will put a fried egg on everything. I love poached eggs, but I want somebody to do it for me. I'm not doing it at home. So
I don't mind poaching eggs at all. I don't mind that at all.
I have too much brunch service PTSD from poaching eggs in water. To order for Benedict's, I'm like, no, I'm good.
That's still one of my favorites, though. Yeah, Benedict's are always good.
But I love that. I love if I can go somewhere and order a really nice Caesar salad and get a poached egg on top and break it open and have the yolk be like a continuation of the dressing is just really, really good. Or I love breaking open an over easy egg over like enchiladas. Oh man.
Yeah.
So good.
I mean, I can agree with you 100% on that one.
It's so good. When you poach your eggs, you eat them. Is it over easy?
Of course. Better be.
Yeah.
That yolk better be runny.
Yeah. How about boiled eggs? Do you like a soft boil? Do you ever do the sous vide eggs?
I've done those, but I prefer them just traditionally, like where they're set up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that's just.
But is that so? When you say set up, is that completely pale yellow? Like you're going to take them out and devil them with a fork?
Yep.
Okay. Because I also like them a little bit halfway between, where the inside kind of looks a little bit like a jam, but they're not completely runny. If that makes sense.
Yep. Perfect sense.
So I've been curing egg yolks. Have you ever done that?
I have.
Yeah, I've been curing them in hot sauce and spreading them on toast for breakfast. It's been great.
I'll never cure them that way, but that sounds pretty good.
Well, the cured egg yolks, they set up all jammy. And so for the type of salads that you're talking about, just busting up a couple of cured egg yolks could make an amazing dressing, like a real umami type, moment of happiness, like roasted Brussels and goat cheese and beets. And you could throw like a cured egg yolk. Oh, man. It's so good.
Sounds good.
I want to eat it right now.
Really good, yeah.
Right now.
I'm going to have to try that.
Hey, it's been a pleasure having you on. Where can we find you online, Steven?
Find me on social media. Chef Steven Gonzalez on Facebook, Chef Stegon's on Instagram, TikTok, and I'm not really much on Twitter anymore, but I still use it from time to time. So yeah, or go to chefstevengonzalez.com.
Yes, please do. Go find the book, Get Your Grub On. Please, please, please make this man a millionaire by buying his amazing cookbook. Support this wonderful friend of mine, this amazing human. Stay tuned to all the online spaces for a giveaway of that same cookbook and a little contest. Stay tuned for that Palms Anna recipe on the website. And as always, make good food, eat good food, share it, and be kind to one another. Thanks.
Thanks so much for listening today. You are part of what makes us special, and we are so glad you joined us. Don't forget to rate, subscribe, and leave a review. Just like food, delicious podcasts are better when you share them with others. Come back for seconds wherever podcasts are served, and we'll catch you in the next episode of the Food for Thoughtcast.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Food for Thoughtcast or at www.foodforthoughtcast.com, where you can link to all podcast players, or you can send us an email at foodforthoughtcmc@gmail.com.